Rug stitch or single knot tufting, and it's a stitch that's going to create like a pile like you'd have on a carpet. And the idea is that the stitch will form a loop which you then have to anchor so that it doesn't kind of blow away. So, and then you can cut those loops if you want to and do different things. So some examples of the stitch: if you don't cut the loop, you could create something like this. This is how I've done the hair. So the curly hair on this is just that stitch but not cut. If you cut it, you can create something like I've done here, which is where I've created some grass, tufts of grass, because I've done the stitch and then cut it. And then another example where you can cut it and trim it and shape it is what I've done here, which is these catkins. Again, using the same stitch but cut so that it's more of a dome. So I've trimmed it closer to the edge on the outside of those catkins. It's an example of that. And also we've got examples here of you could do bulrushes, the tail of a squirrel, a bee. The latest Stitch magazine has got some crewel work in it, and they've got a bunny rabbit with its tail done in this stitch. And again, an embroidery magazine, latest one, you've got this, which is a beardless iris, and the centre part of the iris has also been done. So really versatile, lots you can do with it. And they think it was originated perhaps from rug making or carpet making is where they think. It appears in English stump work in the 17th century, and if you think about it, this is building up to, is some stump work. And this book here is about stump work. So, and it's also been seen in the United States, and also in Africa in the 20th century. It's been seen in Zaire embroidery as well. So quite extensive use of it. And the key to it is, as I said, is making these loops and then securing the loops. So we're going to do something like this, where you've got the loops but they're held in place. Because if you just did loops, like I've done here, I've just got running stitch here, as you can see. So this is just running stitch, which I've looped. But of course, if I pull that one changes and goes away. So there's no security in it at all. So we want to do something which will create those loops, but also secure them. I've just got embroidery thread here. And a needle. You could use wool, you can do it on canvas work as well, so real variety. The point to make is that there's a row of loops and a row of anchoring stitches. So you'll see the loops at the bottom and the anchoring stitches are at the top. So when you do it, you need to think about the direction that you want your end result to be. So for example, with the one I've done here, like with the hair, I would want my face to be under here, because this is the hair. If I wanted this to be perhaps like a bush, then I'd want it to be that way around. So think about how you want to use the stitch. That will determine the direction that you use. But the way you set it is when you sew it, the loops are at the bottom and the anchoring stitches are at the top. The other way another tip is that when we use the needle, we're going to always come up on the left and go down on the right if you're right-handed, and it's the reverse if you're left-handed. Okay, so so you always come up on the left and you go down on the right of your stitches. And what you're doing is you're just continuing the line of stitching. So the first thing is, you don't have to worry about a waist knot, which is a good thing. So what you do is you start at the end of your line, you just go down from the front to the back and you leave your tail. And that in effect is half a loop. Then, as you said, you come up on the left, so you come up on the line from the left, and then you go down on the right of that stitch. Does that make sense? Can you see? Yeah. And as I pull the stitch through, I'm going to keep the loop at the top. because I'm not going to pull it all the way through, because I want to be able to see where my middle stitch started, because I'm going to pull the needle through right next to that stitch where I first started, right by the tail. And then I'm going to just pull, once I've got the needle in, I'm just going to pull the thread, and I'm going to pull my needle through. So can you see that's my anchoring stitch, that's my first anchoring stitch, because it's kept in place, this tail's not going anywhere now. I can pull it, you can see it's not going anywhere. So now I need to make a loop, because you do it alternately. So you make a loop and you make an anchoring stitch. So now I'm going to go down just to the right of that stitch and pull down. And you can make the loop as long as, so these are going to be my loops, so they can be as long or as short as you like. So I'm going to make them quite big, just so it's easier to see. And then because I need to do an anchoring stitch, that's my next one, I'm doing it alternately, I come up where that anchoring stitch finished. So it's going to look like a continuous line of stitches, a bit like back stitch. So I come up there, and that then, at the moment, that loop is still movable. Can you see it's still moving? I can still make it. So now I need to secure it with my anchoring stitch. So I'm going to take my needle down just to the right of the loop. And again, I'm not going to pull it all the way through, because I'm going to put the needle, because I'm making another loop, I need my needle to come up right next to the loop.
In the middle, is it? Yeah.
In the middle, yeah. I'm going to pull the anchoring stitch right through and pull my needle through.
So we're all doing that very close together.
Yeah.
So I assume that's going to be quite loose. And if you wanted to find it, would you do further apart? Or would you just use
So we can do that. If I want a huge loop, I'll go all the way over here. So a very wide loop. And then I just need to come up next to where my last anchoring stitch was. Pull the needle through. Now that loop is still loose. So I need an anchoring stitch. So I go down just to the right, pull it through, but don't pull it all the way through. Bring the needle back up where the last loop finished. Pull that through.
Like a back stitch.
Yes.
And then going forward, and then
yes. So you do a loop, make your loop. To secure it, you bring the needle up where the last anchoring stitch finished, and then bring your needle down the other side of the loop. Don't pull it all the way through, so you can see where you need to bring the needle up, which is right by where the last loop stitch finished. Does that make sense? And then
it does when you do it.
Okay. And now with this one, I've got 2 rows. So I've done 1 row, and then I've just started again, but I've offset it. So I don't know if you can see the bottom row, the loops are in between the loops of the one above. Somebody mentioned that it looks like tiles of a roof.
yes, yeah.
So to do that, what you need to do, let me get another needle. I'll use a slightly lighter colour. So this time, if my tail started just there, so I'm going to make my tail, I'm going to take my tail to start just a little bit further to the left. So there's my tail. I'm going to come up, because I need my anchoring stitch. So I'll come up and go down. And what I'm doing is I'm going to be going down. I'm going to be going down where the tail of the first row is. And I'm not going to pull all the way through, because I'm going to come up in the middle next to my tail. I'm going to pull that through. And there, when I do my second row, whoops, I keep getting caught up. now when I do the loop here, my loop, I'm going to bring my needle down in the middle of the loop on the previous row. So now my loop now is starting and ending in the middle of the loops on the row below. So you're just offsetting it.
And do you gradually work down?
So we work up because the loops are below me. So yes, you build it up. So if you were doing a circle like the bunny, you'd start right at the bottom and you do maybe 1 stitch, and then you do 3, and make it just fill that all in. And it shows you in this example on the Stitch magazine here. It's built. It's a bit difficult to see because I've used wool, but they've built it up line by line, and then when it's filled the hole in, you then cut the loops, and then you do whatever tidying up you need to, just like if you were making a pom-pom, where you would undo it, wouldn't you? And then you tidy up the edges. So some really clear instructions in the Stitch magazines we have. At the back there's a stitch guide, and most of them have the turkey rug stitch. You can see it just there, shown there, and that's how they do it in for canvas work, is really to display. But the best place to go to is the RSN Stitch Bank online. I think I showed it to you when I was doing something else. Can't remember now what I was doing, but I was doing something else. I showed it then. It's really good. They've got step-by-step instructions, pictures of it. They've got illustrations of it. They do it. You can switch it so you can do it right-handed and left-handed, and they've got a video on there as well. So it's a really good resource. Excellent. Just go on to that RSN Stitch Bank and type in turkey rug stitch, and it